Well, we'll
Yeah.
get into it, mate. Firstly, Lukhan, thanks for taking the captain's call. Much appreciated. I know you've had a busy start to Super Rugby AU, but firstly, thanks for taking time out, mate.
Nah, it's all good. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure, mate. Firstly, we'll get talking all things rugby, but I've been pretty consistent when I've asked the question to. I've obviously spoke with Liam Wright it's probably about 5 weeks ago. The whole period of COVID and how everyone's adapted and adjusted during this period of just unknown. What was that like for you? And obviously, you can explain a little bit with your teammates and what it was like up in Queensland, and how it currently is. But what's been your experience so far in 2020?
Yeah, it's been obviously been something that no one really prepared for. No one had an idea that was going to happen. But just sort of just put life in perspective. I think for everyone, sort of just being grateful for the things that we have that we normally didn't appreciate as much, like just being at home with family, having a meal with family, sort of stuff like that. So when we came back to training, everyone sort of said the same thing, and just how much work and life can sort of take up a lot of time, and sort of just gave us some time to reflect and sort of just think about other stuff. So it was obviously something that wasn't pleasant for us because I think we just started to get a roll on before COVID hit. So but now it's been good. Sort of try to come out of that isolation period a more improved person, or try and work on other things besides footy. So that was all good. Yeah,
it's important, isn't it? I think it gave everyone a chance to pause and reflect. And what were some of from you personally, what were some of the key things you talk about growing, coming out better? What do you think was one of the things which, now that we're coming out of COVID, we're still, obviously, it's something we're going to live with. What are the things you reckon you'll continue, which was something that you might have been doing in the past, but you're going to continue doing it post it?
Cooking.
You're a chef. I mean, you'll have to cook up something. Talk us through. That could be, you could be a dangerous addition to celebrity chef. Talk us through what your go-tos were.
I'm not really a good cook, but I just normally throw stuff on the barbecue. So I was just trying to experiment and just cook things at home, because you'd obviously know it's with busy schedules and all that. It's sort of just trying to settle for the easy option, but sort of stuff like that. Sort of trying to just learn how to control things. That you can control, and anything that you can't, sort of just leaving it and just dealing with it. Yes, I got into a bit of reading, which is
nice.
Which is something that I've never really done since school. I don't even think I've done it in school. So, so just a few other things. Yeah, so it's just it's been good, and just being at home with family, because obviously we're always away on tours and long days at Ballymore. So I think the biggest thing I took out of it was just being at home with family.
Yeah, that's good. And that's been a pretty consistent theme from everyone. Spoke with Michael Hooper last week, and he was saying some of the important things, like his dog was barking all the time throughout the whole damn call. So he was on dog walking duties, but it makes you appreciate those things, because you do spend, and that is the life of a professional sportsman, but a rugby player, particularly Super Rugby. There's a lot of travel involved, and I think people forget about that. And you were tied into Super Rugby AU, not as much travel. How much have you enjoyed Super Rugby AU?
I think it's been good. Just being able to have these local derbies every week in, week out, is something that, you weren't really getting when it was just a normal Super Rugby. You sort of have to wait a couple of weeks or a long time in between facing other Australian players. So it's definitely been good. The games have been tight, really physical. Yeah, like real physical, and there's a lot to play for. And there's obviously jerseys, Wallaby jerseys up for grabs. So everyone's really putting their hand up and putting their best foot forward. But yeah, like you said, the travel's awesome. You only got to do the odd flight, 1 hour flight here and there, and there's more home games. So I think as players we've benefited, but also fans, they get to see their teams a lot more at home. So
it's a good point.
Pretty good. Yeah.
It's a really good point. And what you just said there, obviously I've been sitting down and watching a lot of the games, pitch side and commentating on them. There's a real edge to every single game. And if you're a little bit off, which all teams have been affected by this so far in Super Rugby AU, the other team's going to pounce. Like, they've been really tight contests. I know you came back from the dead to force that super time with the Reds. with the Rebels. There's also the great example of I think the turnaround in 7 days. You got an absolute lesson from the Waratahs, as did the Brumbies from the Rebels that weekend. Then you turn it around in 6 weeks and put in an emphatic performance. It requires you to be on your game, doesn't it? Because there's no let up from any team in Super Rugby AU.
Yeah, 100%. And I think because it's a derby week in, week out, you can't really dwell on losses or stuff ups too much. Our skipper Liam sort of said to us, we just got to just move on fast because around the corner there's another Australian team waiting to beat you up. So it's been good, and for us, our goal last week was to turn it around from that Tars game because we're obviously disappointed. So it's tough competition.
Yeah, it's a tough competition. You talk about that Waratahs game, and we'll just touch upon it briefly, but it was a tough week. Obviously, it became public, obviously, in the last 7 days with Jordan Patai losing his father. That has a huge impact on that young man and his family, and obviously on the playing group. Talk a little bit about it. I know it's sensitive, but also just the ability for you guys to then get around him, and that's, I think, what's a great thing about team sport in tough times. And then put in a performance like you did last week, and then the performance he did personally. It must have given all of you, from the playing group to the coaches, a real sense of achievement, getting through what was a really difficult personal time in his life.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously it's really sad what's happened with Jordan and his family, and like Ronga said, we throw our full support and we send our love to his family and to all his relatives around the world. So. Because we're such a tight-knit group at the Reds, it did have an impact on everyone. It does put stuff like that does put life into perspective, and it really does make you grateful for the things that you have. I'm really, really shattered for him, and but there's guys in this team that's had the same thing happen to them.
Yeah.
There's a bit of advice there. There's a sort of, there's some shoulders there to lean on for him, which is good. But he's been coming in and training with us, so. I said to the boys, that's only a reflection of how tight we are as a group. So for him to keep coming in and training, being around the boys and, throwing a few smiles on his face just shows, how comfortable he is in our environment. So, like you said, I don't want to touch on it too much because it's something that, should be respected. But, it definitely was a tough week for everyone.
Yeah, and it is. I think we are being respectful, but it's good to acknowledge because I think that just shows you the strength and character of our game at times. Like in tough times, you know who's going to be around you, and that was evidenced by what's happened in the past 14 days. And particularly on the weekend, he goes over for the try. Everyone's around him. It was just a really nice moment. It was a beautiful sporting moment. And, I think you talk about your tight-knit group. Just explain some of the characters. Liam Wright gave me a bit of an idea about some of the characters, and your name was mentioned, but just give me some of your characters because you're now a bit of an old bull now. You've been in the saddle for a few years, Super Rugby. You've been around the Wallaby framework. Talk me through some of the young guys in your team. I'll be doing the same soon. Sun's setting here in Sydney. We mightn't see each other if we turn the light on, mate. I can say that. But talk me through some of your characters in your team.
So obviously everyone would know Harry Wilson's a big character in the team. For someone who's in his rookie year, he's probably the biggest personality in this team. So, I know he takes that role, head on and really wants to be the main guy. So, we got Wilso there, who's always loud, and with him, like we travel, we have those fly in fly out games, and like we get together around 10 o'clock in the morning, and the same energy he has in the game, he's got that right up in the morning. Yeah, right up until we land 2 a.m. in the morning. So. He's definitely one. Nella, everyone knows Nella's is a big character. Who else we got? I think everyone, because we're such a young group, all the boys are just full of energy. So there's characters everywhere. Hamish Stewart's, he's pretty funny, old country boy. So he's always routing up all the boys. So it's good being able to see the different boys come through.
And you saw, like, obviously actually get access. So sometimes you've got to be careful how much access you get into the players' change rooms after the game. But it was really a really nice moment just carrying on about that tightness and how everyone's really enjoys playing for each other. And it's a young squad. But you got to, like, Super Rugby is a tough competition. Super Rugby AU is definitely that. And as you said earlier, each week you got to turn up. But when you have some success and you get the job done, you've got to celebrate it, don't you? I did like seeing the change room scenes last week where you sang your song and everyone was really enjoying the fact that you'd achieved something together after a tough week.
Yeah, like you said, we got to enjoy those wins. But it's sort of like that fool's gold. You can't really dwell on those wins for too long, and then you come the next week, and then it gets turned upside down again. But for these boys in our team, because we are so young, it's important for them to understand and to know what it feels like to get those wins, especially against another Australian side, because they, like people say, it's worth double points, and because there's so much passion and there's so much energy in those games. You do got to celebrate and have a few beers, get around each other, a few laughs, especially when you beat a quality team like the Rebels. So no, it was good. Everyone was in high spirits, especially coming off that tough loss against the Tars. So it's just been good, and hopefully we can come up with another win this weekend against a Force team who will be looking to to throw the ball around and really strike us.
Yeah, we'll get onto that. Like, it's a good point, good segue, because you've got 3 games to go, and it's the Force. I've watched just about every single one of their games and caught a lot of their games live. They aren't going to go away. They're a really spirited team. They defend hard. They defend as hard as they do in the first minute, in the 75th minute. And they're going to be, if you're a little bit off, they'll hurt you. And you get a sense that they're wanting to achieve their own piece of history coming back into Super Rugby AU after having been 3 years out of the comp and get that elusive victory. How wary are you of the Force?
Oh, we're aware of the threats that they pose, across the field. Like you said, they've got a chip on their shoulder, and they, want to prove a point as to why they belong in Super Rugby, which I definitely believe that they belong in Super Rugby.
Oh, totally.
I think we're stronger as a nation with five teams, and in saying that, they've got a lot of Queenslanders in their side. There's a lot of Queenslanders all over the country. So,
it's everywhere.
Every time we come up with a team that, there's always full of boys from Queensland that are, willing to rip into us and get one up on the old home state. So, but yeah, we've done our review, and we're definitely aware of the threats that they have, because when we played them last time, we were down by 2 tries in under 10 minutes. So, they're definitely going to come with a lot of energy and a lot of passion.
And talk about the starts. Like, I think one thing, when I spoke to Liam, you'd obviously reviewed Super Rugby as it was then, and then put a line in that. What are the things you're going to be learning? And as you said, you're finding some rhythm before it was closed down due to COVID. One of the things which you've seen continue in Super Rugby AU, your ability to attack it hasn't been questioned this year. Yeah, great attacking coach, really good talented young players off the back of some quality ball that's provided by the forwards. But there seems to be a noticeable change in the attitude and your efforts in defence. Has that been something that was a real key focus for you going into Super Rugby AU?
Yeah, definitely big time. Ever since Thorny's sort of come in and been our coach, he's always, been real passionate about defence. Credit to our defence coach, Michael Todd. He's come in and, he's been an analysis coach for, I don't know, maybe 7 years. So he's seen how boys react and, how they can digest information. And I think he's done a wonderful job with us. And it only shows last week. And then, but yeah, that defence and that starch we have is something that's sort of, we label as Queenslanders, and that's what we do. So, I think it's been awesome just to see, how we can attack with ball in hand, but also defend well enough. So, I think for us, the consistency is the biggest thing for us, because, we're such a young squad. We don't like saying that, but, we are. And
yeah, you are.
We just gotta, we gotta learn how to be consistent, because the good teams are consistent.
Yeah, and it's a good question, that whole, well, good point, consistent. It's a buzzword, isn't it? Well, not such a buzzword, such an important word in all sport. Like, what is it that helps you get consistency, you feel? I know you keep saying you're a young squad, but for the Queensland team, when you're playing your best, what are the things that you consistently do which help you perform at your best?
Just everyone doing their role, everyone doing their job, understanding their role, knowing that we don't have to make the big play or flashy move to sort of spark the team. If we've got 23 guys on the day doing their job and doing it well, I think as a team we should perform consistently. And it's been said a lot. We are a young team, and these boys are really early, starting their careers early on. So they're going to make mistakes, and they don't know what's the best routine for them yet. And the only thing they can do is learn from mistakes and continue to grow. And because they've been exposed to Super Rugby at such a young age, it's only going to benefit them when they hit their prime. So,
Yeah, it's really good because I'm sorry to cut you off, mate. I was just going to say you've been through that, and you know the importance of like finding a routine. And everyone makes mistakes. Everyone's going to make some errors. Learning what it takes to play Super Rugby and professional rugby. Have you enjoyed, like, you're still a young man yourself, mate, but being someone who can pass on some of your experiences, is that something you've grown into? I'm sure, I know you're part of that leadership group, but that's really critical in any team, but particularly when it's a younger squad.
Yeah, definitely. When you come into these squads and into a professional environment, you're only looking for guys that are older than you and more experienced than you to sort of help show the way and lend a hand. Because you may be afraid to ask questions or you don't want to, overstep boundaries, whatever. But that's something that I've sort of just learned from being in the same environment myself, like you said, learning from older players. So because I know that it's helped me and benefit me and help become a better player and person, I know that it's only right that I do the same thing. And I may not have the right answers or the best, the best advice, but I'm sure that they'll take what they want from it, and vice versa. Like, these guys are coming in, and who's to say that you can't learn off someone who hasn't even played a game of Super Rugby? We can all learn from each other. So
it's true.
Everyone.
Well, that creates an environment where everyone's not afraid to talk, isn't it? I think that's critical, isn't it? I think all good teams, and the buzzword culture, I think that's evident in successful teams. But that's also, I think that's generated from the playing group, but also it's encouraged by the coaches. Just talk a little bit, you mentioned a couple of the names, but just talk through the coaching setup within the Reds, which I think has been a really good environment for young men to thrive.
Yeah, it's been good. We've obviously got Thorny there at the helm of things. We've got, people say the great Jim Mackay.
Yeah.
He's a person. He's a person.
He is, isn't he?
Himself, so, he definitely makes everyone feel welcome and everyone feel like a family. I touched on Michael Todd, our S&C's Marshy,
Yep.
Tom Mitchell, our media manager. He's here listening, so I'll give him a shout.
There you go.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of coaches who feel just as part of the team as anyone else, as the players. So when we've got that synergy and that connection with our coaches, to be able to understand each other from a personal front, I think we're going to only get the best out of each other when it comes to rugby and learning stuff. So you talked about culture, and I think been at the Reds for 5 or 6 years now. I honestly say this year, in this team and squad we have now, is probably the best culture and best team that I've been a part of. And I don't say that, I don't throw those words around lightly either.
Yeah, I know that about you too, mate. And you can see in the way everyone's playing, but particularly, I know you're not going to talk too much about yourself, and that's the nature of the other guys I've been talking to, that they're always going to deflect. But your form, have you been really happy with your form? Watching it, you're just super involved in all aspects of the game on both sides of the ball. And I'll follow this up after you answer the question about some of the rule changes. But is that something that you've really worked on personally, to just to be in the game all the time? You seem to be super involved this season.
Yeah, it was obviously I sort of used that COVID break to sort of try and break down my game and be honest with myself and sort of have that self-reflection to see where I could improve. But I think most of it was just the excitement to get back and play footy. Like, we hadn't played footy in a couple months or however long it was. So, I just was just so excited to get my hands on the footy and just play because it's been so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, the coaches have been helping me out, and the best players that I've seen, even at the back end of their career, continually want to get better. So, and obviously I've just try to mature as a person and as a player. So I think once you do that off the field, it definitely goes onto the field. So yeah,
for sure.
I wouldn't say too happy with it, but it is what
That's
it is.
it.
Yeah.
There's always something to work on, mate. You can never give yourself a mark out of 10 out of 10, can you? There's always something to be aspiring to. I get it, and it's a great attitude to have. Now, following on what I said, both sides of the ball, you're talking about your own form and the team's form, defence, attack. What's been your take with the new laws? What have you enjoyed them, and how's it been adjusting to them in terms of how the team plays?
Yeah, well, we obviously got to play more smarter, especially with kicks and possession, knowing when to kick, and just trying to manipulate teams to sort of fall into traps and stuff like that. But I'm playing second row at the moment, so there's not too many law changes that happen around the top. So Probably just the things I enjoy watching is just the line dropouts,
Yeah.
seeing guys like Nella, Pone, and all those tight heads run back. So I
Oh,
try.
wasn't that? What about those clashes on the weekend? That was amazing. We were going crazy in the box. So it was like two rams going at each other for
Yeah,
80 minutes. They just looked for each other, didn't they?
I don't even think they spoke to each other. They just kept running at each other.
Oh, it's brilliant. It was brilliant to watch. Brilliant to watch it. But having commentated over this Super Rugby AU, I've loved that line dropout. So if you're the attacking team and you're over the line, rather than a 5 metre scrum, or it's the ball's going to be back in play, you get it within deep inside that team's 40, 35 metres out by the time that first tackle's made, and it's game on again. So there's no respite. So you're really you're getting rewarded for playing positive rugby, and it makes it really difficult for teams defending there's another wave. There's another wave. You don't get to 22 and then can kick it 60 metres down the field and then you let off. No, you get the benefit for being positive and being in the right part of the field.
Yeah, it's been good. Yeah, I know the big boys enjoy running it back. Especially Nelly, he gets a bit more TV time. So
well, he does. His play brings it on, and I'll be finishing it off pretty quickly. But one piece which never changes in the game of rugby, does it, mate? Your set piece has to be strong, doesn't it? It has to be good. And one thing I think probably the most consistent and strong, well, one of the strongest scrums in Super Rugby AU has definitely been Queensland. You forced a lot of penalties through that. That's something that must be pleasing.
Yeah, it definitely is. Especially you look at our pack. We're a very young pack. I think the oldest person in our pack is probably JP Smith. And he's injured at the moment. So we got guys like Nella, who's 23, hasn't even hit his prime yet, leading the scrum. We got loose heads that have unfortunately fallen over. So we've got guys stepping up into those roles, and they're really taking it in their stride to excel. And we all Nella gets the pats on the backs and all that, but we got to give props to our hookers, and it's a whole eight.
It's a pack effort, isn't it? Totally.
Exactly. So. In saying that, our coaches have done well. Our scrum coach, Cameron Lillycrap, he's done well with the boys, and just boys wanted to get better because there's nothing feels good as nothing feels as good as a scrum penalty, and it's good. It's good to see.
Oh, that's great. Well, as I said, I've taken up a bit of your time. I was a little bit late due to the Sydney traffic, so sorry about that again, mate. But the run in, talk us through the run in before we say our farewells. How important is it to, as you said earlier, be consistent, but also just try and build that winning momentum to hopefully get to that pointy end and give yourselves the best shot at being Super Rugby AU champions?
Yeah, so for us, we knew last week was a sort of a must-win game for us. So this week, it's no different because if we drop this one, last week doesn't mean anything. So there's a lot of teams that are hunting for each other and trying to get that top spot, and it's good to see. But for us, we're just wanting to just continue to improve our game and just grow as a team. So I'm sure if we do that and be consistent with our stuff, hopefully results come my way. But it's a tough opposition this week against the Force, and I know it's going to be a good match for both teams. So looking forward to it. Hopefully we can do well later in the year.
Yeah, well, mate, good luck with obviously what's happening against the Force. It's going to be a fantastic clash, and obviously the remainder of the season. And as you said, set yourselves up to hopefully be in that finals race. And off the back of that, as you know, the rest takes care of itself in terms of Wallaby selection. But more importantly, good luck for the Reds this weekend, the remainder of the season. Thanks for spending time on Captain's Call, Lukhan.
Cheers. Thanks, George.